Drew, thank you so much for taking the time out and chatting with us today.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you were obviously on America's Got Talent in 2015. I think it was season 10. You were the runner-up, second place. Unfortunately, didn't make it all. The guy with the puppets won. I don't remember his name, but he won, and But obviously, this launched a great career for you, and obviously in stand-up and everything else. But how did you get to that point? How did you get into comedy, and what brought you to this point right now?
Well, I lived in Las Vegas for the years that I was in middle school and high school, and at that time they had performing arts schools, so I was really interested in acting ever since I was a kid. That was what I wanted to do. And right after high school, I knocked out my first year of college in my senior year. So from Las Vegas, I moved to LA when I was 18 or 19, and I landed like a few little stints on like Disney and like Mad Men, and I was repped by a lot of there was some progress made on being repped by some larger higher ups, and then I had a company team that I was on, right. I had a softball injury, so I was playing shortstop, and I got hit with the softball in the throat, and then I hit my head when I fell down, which is what led to a major concussion. The diagnosis is a major concussion on a vocal contusion, and when I went home that day, I went to sleep, which you're not supposed to do which I know now, and then I woke up the next day talking, as I'm slower than how I talk now, and I had to explain all this to my agent and my manager, and I was like, they told me it's not a permanent thing, but for now this is how I talk, and they were like, all right, we'll just come back when you get better. So they said that they couldn't really help someone who doesn't have control of the fully functioning motor skills. So I was pretty devastated because I had wanted to do acting for I wanted to be an actor for forever, and then I had this time after a year of just like clawing my way into trying to open the cap of this industry for myself, to have them shut that door. It felt really. It was just like it's like when someone tells you that you can't do something, and you're just like, I don't know how to process that information because you're telling me that I'm not capable, or you can't make an exception. So I had to turn to make the exception for myself, which is where I started to do stand up just as a means of almost therapy. Initially, it was mostly just like, let me talk out this problem and maybe be able to make fun of myself in the meanwhile that can maybe get me to laugh at whatever my situation was. So at the time, I had no idea that would spark into whatever. I didn't think it would lead to a career or a Skype interview. So,
that's the big thing. The Skype interview, of course, is the big
It really
thing.
is. I mean, I don't know how the guy who won America's Got Talent is doing, but I can tell you, I am on big Skype platforms.
So you ended up auditioning for America's Got Talent. Were you like, at that point, were you like, I really want to make this stand-up thing work? Is that where you were focusing at that point? Because obviously you went from acting, and now this is did you fall in love with stand-up comedy, or was that just your only outlet?
Yeah. Well, initially it felt like this is the closest next artistic outlet. It's not at all the same as acting, but I never have had a problem speaking in front of people. You know, what I have has nothing to do with nerves, so I'm not. It's there regardless of whoever's in the room, or usually the circumstances rarely make it fluctuate. So it kind of, there's this thing that they say in comedy, which is where comedy like picks you, and I don't know if that's I don't know how bougie or that I don't know how bougie that sounds, but to me it's become apparent in the relationships that I've developed with my peers in comedy, because every comedian who I've seen is successful or that has created their world around comedy and immersed themselves in it. They have some pretty dark backgrounds. They've got some things that they've got they've got a lot of problems that are evident, or pretty damaged pasts. And I think that I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Either it's we've just deflected for our whole lives and become good at making our problems like the butt of a joke, or maybe shying away from it by using humor. But I didn't expect at all that it was going to be a career or anything, and I just did it just as like, all right, well, this is all I can do. And then it slowly started to become apparent to me that out in the real world and day to day, I don't find I'm very well heard or very well listened to. It's easy for people to gloss over what it is that I have to say, and it makes me feel a little insecure and a little insignificant. But then when I'm on stage, it's a whole room full of people who are there to listen to you, or there to listen to someone, and you were there, happen to be there at the same time or whatever. But there's a sense of unity within the audience in that moment, because they're all there to get away from their problems by hopefully laughing about yours with you. And no one wants to go on stage and hear a guy talk about how great his life is. No one can relate to that.
Sure.
So lots of my comedy now has nothing to do with my stutter, because I don't want it to be a thing I'm defined by or used as a crutch or whatever. But for the time, it gave me something to talk. It gave me something to talk about. It gave me a thing that would let the audience know that I was human and that my guard was down. So in the same way, they're like, oh, okay, well, I don't have a stutter, but I have financial issues that are debilitating, or mental issues there, or my own physical handicap that's debilitating. So I relate in that way. And then it all of a sudden became it's let me know if I'm talking too much, by the way.
No, this is perfect.
Then it spiraled into being able to provoke change. Like I got so many messages, at least when I did America's Got Talent a few years ago, about how comedy made how whatever I was saying or whatever I was doing made them fight a little bit harder or try to hang on for a little bit longer in their current situation, which to me, I had changed my perspective again, because I used to think comedy was just all about do whatever you can to get a laugh whenever. And when I hear people say things like, oh, well, I'm fighting, I'm going through rounds of chemo, and I'll keep doing the rounds of chemo as long as you keep advancing in the show. Or when people say like, my husband and I had a miscarriage a year ago, and you're the first time we laughed or shared a laugh together since. Man. It makes comedy have an anchor of a purpose, rather than just being like, oh, well, that's a funny guy, or that's a guy, or that's a guy who he does yuck yucks, or he writes and does hullabaloo. These are all ridiculous words I'm using because that was almost my perspective. But then I realized that if you're complaining about what it is that frustrates you and what makes you human, people relate to that in a big way.
Man, that obviously. First, thank you for being so vulnerable. And the reason I want to go there is because you talked when you were on the show. You talked about how you weren't always the nicest person. You weren't always vulnerable. You weren't always open. And I was actually just interviewed for a podcast earlier today talking about male vulnerability and how not every man is really. Like we're kind of taught to cover that up. But what was your, obviously it might have been the incident, but what was your big shift from going from being a little bit cold-hearted to being able to be so open and also understanding other people's shortcomings and the things they need help with?
It wasn't, and it also wasn't so much that it wasn't so much that the person I was before was this tyrant. I wasn't like I wasn't someone who was by any means horrible or or anything. But I was someone who I was a little bit in love with like myself, and I kind of was like. I was so in denial about the insecurities that I had that I would never let anyone else know that I had them. So much so that I would make sure someone else was aware of their insecurity at the expense of making a joke about it. To again shed light not on my own. When you have a situation that I have to deal with every day, you don't really get to carry yourself with the same kind of confidence, because you learn to speak and be away for 20 years, and then all of a sudden it changes, and it changes dramatically in a way that you now have something extremely and physically apparent to every person you come into contact with. So in that way, it was like I felt like a little kid again, and that's what's crazy is stuttering is a thing that is most common in adolescence. And I can't imagine. I know my experience is unique, and I talk about wow, it's so crazy to learn who I am as an adult, and then have to and then feel like a child wrapped in an insecurity again. But I can't imagine being a kid who's between 3 to 5 who stutters, trying to have to figure out who they are, but also have this debilitating thing. It's that to me sounds also challenging. Yeah, it was the injury. That was the thing that taught me compassion. It taught me that maybe sometimes people are having a bad day, or people are having people are doing things out of their own insecurities, and it offered me a little bit of. It was definitely a humbling thing, and I don't know. I don't ever like preach like. Whoever believes or whatever, but maybe it was a higher power saying to me that I needed to take a step back, and that I wasn't maybe experience something that was human and humbling, so I didn't get too off the train tracks.
You mentioned the vulnerability helping you, and some of the insecurities for you. You held in. If you could go back to yourself pre the accident and say, you know what, if you were vulnerable prior to that, how much it could help you grow. So I guess what I'm asking is, there's people out there right now that don't want to be vulnerable, but what can vulnerability do for them that maybe it did for you?
Well, I would. I have sometimes a difficult time. I right now have a difficult time encouraging someone to show who they are, because there are so many people out there who take advantage of the way that someone is. And I since then have always tried to make myself transparent with other people, and try to be easily try to put everyone else at ease with me being confident in myself, and being confident with what I have, And I don't. If I could go back and tell myself to be vulnerable, maybe what happened wouldn't have happened to me. But I don't know. All I know is I've met so many people after shows who have given me feedback or shared their own story. And I remember there was this one time this girl came up after a show, and she had a stutter and a lisp, and she introduced herself that way. She just said, "Oh, I have this. I have the same thing that you have," and then just kind of carried on conversation wise. That had nothing to do with about it. And I remember thinking she was so attractive, not as like a girl, but just as like a person. She was vibrant because she owned up exactly what it is that she was. She acknowledged it and then move on. So by her saying that is kind of her being like, yeah, it's what I have to deal with. And then those people are attractive. You know, the people who have quiet confidence, who are so okay with themselves in any environment that it's not gonna affect them. It's not gonna rock their world because they're so sure of who they are. And that's what I've had to spend the last 5 years trying to do.
You know, sometimes life just comes and punches you in the face a lot of times when you least expect it. And I guess I'll call it a moment of calamity for someone. How long did it take you to be okay with it? I mean, was it a week? Was it a month? And then how'd you get there?
It took me a really long time. Like there would have to be a lot that you would have to say to me today to get me under my own skin about my voice. So I don't remember the exact moment when I was like, I'm fine with it. I don't care if it gets fixed. I don't care if it's there forever. I don't care if I get made fun of for it. So I can't remember the moment that I was like, right now is when I'm so sure. I mean, because I would always have setbacks. There would always be someone after a show who would say you like a thing, or someone would mock it, or someone would think it was an act, or someone would think it was a crutch in comedy, or well, he's only successful because he stutters, or because he talks about it, or whatever. So there were many setbacks, and even when I did this show, even when I did America's Got Talent, I felt maybe then is when I kind of gained the confidence to really focus in on the fact that there were other people's voices who I was speaking on their behalf, where they were like, "Hey, you got to keep going in this competition because my son has stuttered for 35 years, and he hasn't left the bit. It's so it so controls his life that he hasn't. The only reason he comes up from the basement anymore is to hang out with us, to watch you on the show. And when I hear like there's so many stories like that move me to being so emotional that I because it truly means that there's depth, and there's layers, and it's more complex than just an occupation, or just whatever it is that I do.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you got on the show. What have you been up to since then? What crazy stuff from being on that show has happened in your life? Name like the coolest thing that's happened from there, and then really your biggest takeaway from being on the show.
I would say the coolest thing that I got to do since the show was I filmed my hour special in July, and Howie Mandel came and he did like an extensive interview for like extra features, and he introduced me on the special, and that was just a cool thing because he just did that as like a friend, you know. He was just like, hey, this would help, and I would love to help in any way that I can. So that was a pretty cool thing. But since then, you know, it's kind of come full circle in that I've gotten to do some acting stuff this year, and it doesn't. They don't make the characters in these TV shows that I've done. Like they don't make it about the stutter. They just make it like, oh well, he's just an actor who has this thing or whatever. It was never like a thing at the forefront of the character's breakdown.
That's awesome.
I filmed a TV show earlier this year on Marin, and then I filmed another thing for DirecTV, and I filmed a movie that's called Secret Santa, and that's going to be released, I think, in December or January. And
I'm obsessed with Christmas movies, by the way. Like, we literally...
we love Christmas movies, so I'm sure we'll be watching that one.
At some point, we'll run across it. That's hilarious, though.
We'll be like, oh, wait, is that Drew? What?
This is a dark comedy, so I don't know. I'll have to... We'll see. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Right.
And since then, the thing I do every week, and the thing that I'm probably most passionate about, other than stand up and touring in between doing that, is I have my own YouTube channel with my dog. And we've done a couple of videos, a couple of videos that have got a lot of traction on Facebook and YouTube and stuff. And the people who follow us are on that show are loyal, and they're dedicated. And I'm finding that after shows now, when I travel, more and more people are coming out, not because they saw me on America's Got Talent, but because they watch like our YouTube show. So they're huge dog advocates, or there are people who also have service animals, or they've seen the videos. So that's a thing that I work really, really hard on. I do 2 videos every week, on top of touring, on top of writing on a TV show here in LA, and it's crazy because I'm very rarely here at my apartment in LA. It's kind of like a storage unit, but I just I bounce back and forth, and I get most of my sleeping done on planes.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, we're aware of the dog vlog, as it's called. We reached out to your people. We tried to get Stella on the show. Unfortunately, they passed us off to you. So that's really why we're here, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I know. She's way busier than me. I'm just I'm the next best thing. I get it.
If you can give us an in, that'd be great, since you know her.
I don't know, man. She surrounds herself with tons of security and PR reps. I put in so many requests.
So pretentious, right?
So pretentious. What do you? She's a Vishla. She's over there acting like a poodle.
No, but I will say this about your YouTube channel. I really, I've watched a number of the episodes now, and I really like the fact that you mix in comedy with a message as well. Like, yeah, it's hilarious, but the messages that you have intertwined with it all is really amazing. As far as, the episode I think that's really gone viral for you is the "I'm not getting better, you're getting better," which was a great episode. Just the understanding of, like, just get out of your own way. Like, we're creating these ideas of who people are and what they're doing, and it was just a great way to put it out there as a comedian and made it funny. And obviously the words that you throw up over Stella's head is absolutely phenomenal.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I'm lucky just in that she's such a spectacular dog. So, and she and I are very much connected with what either we're thinking or what we're doing. That we spend a ton of time together. So that was kind of why I created this show, is just because I was like, well, I have all this time with her. I have a lot to say about dogs or about my situation. And AGT is a very family friendly show, and I wouldn't say by any means that my YouTube show is explicit or is vulgar. But it allows it to be a little less censored and a little more raw, so I can get messages out like why my stutter's improving video.
Yeah. No, that's phenomenal. So who inspires you every single day?
Comedy wise, my favorite comedian is probably Louis. He works so hard. Like, he pumps out a new special every year or two, on top of having different TV shows, and on top of touring a television show that he edits and writes for and directs and he stars in. So yeah, I mean, it's a thing that he's a little bit of a game changer, and that how he works and how hard he uses to pump out material. And Bill Burr does the same thing with his podcast. Like, his podcast is something in a way that I relate it to the vlogs. Like, I'll use the vlog sometimes to try out like a joke that like I'm working on, or a thing that's frustrating me, and if that ends up being like a joke later on, then that's exactly what it was meant to do. It's the vehicle it was supposed to be. It's got to be more. I know that I enjoy how many people watch them or like them, but I sometimes forget that the whole reason I started that was, for me, was to work the muscle of, all right, I have jokes or things that I want to say, and I want to be able to say them freely, and also not worry about them not going over well, or having a safety net of trying material. So, yeah, he's probably the person who inspires me the most. I don't really have another figure of someone that inspires me in another way.
Yeah, that's cool. So obviously on this podcast, we've interviewed a ton of successful people. No matter how you label success, success comes in all forms. But what would you say you do 3 things every single day that you do to ensure your success moving forward in your career?
I try to write every day. I try to I try to get out on stage every night, multiple times a night if I can. Where I grew the most was the year before I was on AGT. I set a goal for myself that year to do 500 different sets, so 500 sets in a year.
Amazing.
And I ended up in a year. So, and that year I ended up doing 592. So I ended up. And then I'd heard all of my friends that had done TV, like, they were like, yeah, I did a bunch of sets one year, and then I got on Conan, and I did a bunch of sets, and then I got on Last Comic. And I don't think there's necessarily a correlation of how many times you perform to you getting on television or furthering your career, but I do think that you can't supplement that being able to supplement that kind of experience. It can only come from working that muscle every night, multiple times, and throwing yourself into every environment. So I write. So I write every day. I get up on stage multiple times a night, and as many times, unless I'm out of town and I'm only in a place where I can only do the one gig, and then I would say try to find balance, and that's where I struggled the most, is because I'm so work mind related, workload heavy, that's all that I think about, and that sometimes can consume my whole life. So one of the third thing I try to do is always try to do something in the day that is not really career related, because if not, then your relationships will start to take a toll, and your body will start to take a toll. Your happiness will. You'll start to wonder why you're even doing anything if you don't have the other side of balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just curious. I've wondered this about comedians. When you put together a set or a skit, do you practice it with someone so you know it's going to be funny when you go out for the first time and do it to a group of people? Because I know you probably feed off the audience and everything.
Some people do, but I find the best way to do it is just to get up in front of when you live in a place like LA, there's 15 to 20 open mics going on at any given time, also with shows. So if you bounce around, you'll at least get it within your body, within your body, and
Okay.
you'll be able to figure out where it is you can improve. You'll be able to figure out what it is you need to do to get it on its feet. And I've sometimes given up on bits because the audience didn't find it funny, and then I came back to it and was like, no, I know this is funny. I know I have to.
Yeah.
I know I have to say it, and that's not any means of, that's not an ego thing. It's just it's just you being stubborn about the way you see a thing.
Sure.
So yeah, but sometimes you'll be with friends, and all my friends are super fun. All my friends are way funnier than I am. So I'm always like, so anytime I hang out with them, you can sometimes write with them and it's like, oh yeah, that's funny, or that or whatever. And that's kind of how you can gauge it. But no, mostly it's just get up and fail a lot.
Oh, there you go. Just like anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So what's next for you? So what's coming down the road? What types of things are you working on next?
Well, next I'm getting I'm writing on a television show that's created for me, and
nice.
I'm trying to package that with selling that at the same time that my special gets released. So hopefully, if we can get that on the same network or same platform, then it could be like it could be like the combo. It could be like, here's the special and here's the show as the follow up.
Sure,
And then
that's awesome.
yeah, and then I'm gonna try and tour internationally. I'm gonna try to get to Canada, England, and Australia in this next year. All the while, I'm still going to keep building on the vlog, and I'm going to keep trying. And now, I mean, once I film an hour, much like Louis, he scratches it all, so he has to build a whole other hour, and that's what I'm trying to do now, so I can get another one filmed. So yeah, that's what my year looks like.
Is there a time frame for the release of the special?
We're hoping for January.
Cool.
But there's a million things that get thrown out where you're like, oh, I hope for this, and then it gets moved back. But we'll see.
Very, very cool. So, obviously, we wrap up every single episode the same way. We do a word association, then 5 rapid-fire questions. But before we get there, how do people find you? Where do they find you online? All that good stuff.
You can just type in ruggedly handsome comedian. I should come up.
Then Stella pops up.
Yeah, then Stella pops up. And...
yeah. No, you just type in my name into anything, like into Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. It's just Drew Lynch. I think I'm at the Drew Lynch for everything. And then my website is drewlynch.com, and then the YouTube is me and Stella is dog vlog. So yeah, that's how you find me. Or you can just come to you can just come to my house. I probably won't be there, but you can
you just show
up.
up.
I'm the guy with the dirty Honda parked out front.
So with all that being said, now we get into the word association. So I'm going to say a word, and then you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Okay.
All right. So the first word, stutter.
Benjamin. That's the weird word. Am I allowed to justify it, or do I just say the one word?
That's fine.
That's great.
Second word's talent.
Huh?
Talent.
Paul Zerdin, the guy who.
Second place.
Me.
And the last one's comedy.
Bill Burr.
Nice.
And so now we'll go into the 5 rapid fire questions.
All right.
Some are fun, some are serious, but we ask you this: answer within one word, or at the most one sentence.
All right.
First one is, what's the best advice you've ever received?
No.
There you go. Good.
That's fair.
No,
That's
no,
fair.
No,
What is?
no, that's
Oh, that's
no,
okay.
go up every night, multiple times a night. Yeah.
Perfect. What's the most embarrassing song you have downloaded on your phone?
Kesha.
Anything, just anything, Kesha.
All of Kesha.
All
All of Cash.
This is a two-parter, so there's two answers to this one. What's your favorite and your least favorite word?
Favorite feng shui. Least favorite is the banana. Yeah,
Banana. Got it.
Oh, Justin told me about that.
Yeah, I told him it's really like he goes on this tangent on his YouTube channel about the word banana. So I don't blame you for saying that. We're gonna get real morbid here for a second. At the end of your life, if you could be remembered for just one sentence, what would it be?
He changed the way people viewed comedy and inspirational figures.
Awesome. So obviously this podcast is called the Growth Now Movement. So we wrap up every single podcast with the same question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
I would say when I quit my day job to do this full time and had to rely on myself and my abilities or what have you to make money and survive.
Wow.
That's awesome. Dude, Drew, thank you so much for not only coming on and making us laugh here, but also just being... He's playing Kesha for some reason.
I could not do it. And I heard it in my head.
When you were talking and he's looking on his phone, I'm like, what is he doing? Like, what is going on?
He's like, Justin's like, put it away. Oh, it's Kesha.
It's just Kesha. That's okay. But back to what I was saying. Just thank you so much for coming on and making us laugh. And also just being really vulnerable and spreading a really good message that's a lot bigger than you. That's a lot bigger than America's Got Talent. And that's really just a lot bigger than any one of us. And just thank you so much for doing that, man.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. I got a lot out of this. And it was fun talking to you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Justin, Zach, I thank you guys. Thanks you guys so much for having me.
Yep.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
All right, buddy. Bye.